I'm Rena Striegel. Welcome to AgInspo, the podcast that focuses on innovation and creativity in agriculture. In my travels across the U.S., my mind is blown by the farmers, ranchers, and business owners who are contributing to the richness of the agricultural landscape. My hope is that by sharing their stories, you will be inspired to have the courage to break through and bring an idea you have to life. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of AgInspo. Today, I am very excited to be speaking with Zach Statz. Zach not only works on a multi-generational dairy farm in Wisconsin, but he also has an amazing business where he raises a very diverse flock of sheep that has some amazing genetics. So before I get into any more of that, let's bring on Zach so he can introduce himself to all of you. Hey, Zach, it is so great to have you on the podcast today. I'm very excited to talk to you about your operation because I was lucky enough to be there a couple of weeks ago, right when the babies were showing up. So before I get into a bunch of questions, why don't you just take a couple of minutes and introduce yourself to our listeners because they're going to be excited to hear what you've got going on too.
Okay. Well, my name is Zach Statz. I've grown up in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin all my life. Haven't left the whole block in my entire life between houses. We currently dairy farm, milk about 4,500 cows, run 9,000 acres, and I've worked there since I was 8. In 2011, I decided that I was going to raise sheep. So me and my brother bought a property that I've turned into my personal sheep farm. And this year I am getting married by the end of the year. So a lot of things happening. I have 2 siblings, a brother who works here at the farm full-time with me, and a sister who works part-time on the dairy with us. And my sister also has animals at my sheep farm.
That's awesome. So, I wish we could actually show a picture of your buildings and your operation because I feel like I almost need to give the listeners a visual. So Zach is in Wisconsin, so the land of the red barns. And Zach has several red barns that have all been restored and they're just beautiful. They're all red and then has basically refurbished all of the stalls in the barns to accommodate the various animals. So in addition to sheep, you also raise what else on the property?
We got 4 alpacas, all females, and then we used to breed miniature Nigerian dwarf goats. We have gotten out of that temporarily, so we only have a couple of those left.
Awesome. So, you have a very large farming operation. I mean, 4,500 cows, you milk on 2 different sites, you've got 2 different breed types. I mean, there is just a lot going on at your place. So what led you to getting into sheep?
Well, between all the barns, one year we decided instead of mowing the grass, we were going to buy animals to put in there. So I bought sheep. And we had them in 2010. At the end of the year, I sold them all. And then we bought again in 2011. And then from there, I decided that, well, maybe I'm going to try and breed them and have baby lambs. So I had my first baby lamb born in 2012, 2 sets of twins from Icelandic sheep. And from there, it's just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger. To 2015, I had 100 ewes and over 150 babies born. And after that, I decided that was way too many. So we cut back and I've been doing about 56 ewes a year right now, breeding in.
Just talk a little bit about the diversity of genetics in your sheep herd, because that was one thing that was super surprising to me when I walked in. Not only did you start with Icelandic sheep, which is not necessarily the most common of breed types, but then you walk into your barn and it is just this array of different sizes, colors, different wool types. You've got wool, you've got hair. So talk a little bit about the genetics of your herd and how you came to make the choices that you did about that.
That's an interesting question. So I first started out with Icelandic. That was my first ram and my first 2 ewes. And then a neighbor of ours had polypace. So that's also a wool sheep. So I started with that. And then from there, I decided I wanted color and different sizes of sheep and everything. So I started researching, and I found out that they make this hair sheep, which loses their wool on their own in spring. So we started buying a couple of those, but those are really hard to find. And then from there, we went to a red sheep, which is a wool sheep that are tunus. And that's how I kind of got what you saw when you came, is all the black and white and the red and white and just all the different colors. So for my wool sheep, I have Polypace, Icelandic, Cooper's, Tunis, Hampshire, and Baby Doll, South Downs, and Romneys. And my hair sheep include Dorpers, St. Croix, Katahdins, Black Belly Barbados, Painted Desert. And I've traveled all over Wisconsin to pick up all these animals and bring them here and do what I do.
That's amazing. So just talk to me a little bit, about your season that you've had this year, because it's been pretty amazing in terms of what you had born on your property this year.
So last year I had lambed in 56 ewes, and I had 108 babies with 10 sets of triplets. This year I lambed in 53 ewes. I had 107 babies and 11 sets of triplets. So I did just about the same with 3 less sheep from last year. And it took me about a month. I started February 27th, and we finished March 27th.
That's
and we
awesome.
do that like every 4 hours. I'm in the barn checking for babies, helping get babies out and get them up and get them fed. And this year's was exceptionally awesome. We lost 3 total. 1 was born dead, and the other 2 we lost due to internal issues. Otherwise, everybody else is healthy and alive and striving.
That's awesome. So I know you get some family participation, because this is definitely a all hands on deck when the babies start to come. And talk a little bit just about the fun that your family has around the baby showing up, because you do some really interesting things in the barn in terms of keeping them all straight and making it just fun for everybody.
So my mom and sister help a lot. My dad helps a little bit, and my brother also, but mainly it's me and my mom. So I got 4 big pens. So the building's 100 by 50. It's where all the sheep live all year round. And then I have a lean-to built off of that. That's 100 by 16. So the sheep are all in groups of pens of 4 out there. There's 4 different pens with 14 head in each pen. They lay them out there in their pens, and we get them from there and bring them into our lean-to, where I have 19 different pens set up. 13 of them are small enough for twins and singles, and then I have 6 big ones for triplets. So then once they're in there, they stay about 3 to 4 days, and we make sure they're okay, and then they're tagged and put back out in the regular pen, but they're color-coded so we know who their father is and which pen they were bred in. So it's kind of helps us keep babies with moms. Otherwise, there's just animals running everywhere.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting is not only do you color code them, but everybody gets a name.
Yeah, that's my mom and sister. They come up with names for the entire flock. Everybody has a name. And
then they all wear an ear tag with their name on it. So everybody gets a name badge.
Correct. Yep. So you can know who the names are. Otherwise, no way we could keep that straight.
So I just think that that's really neat that you make this, it's a pretty robust operation when you think about that many mothers, that many babies, and then you have how many bucks? Rams, I'm sorry.
I have 9 rams.
Right, 9.
9. Yep.
So you've got
half our hair, half our wool. So
okay.
That's
talk a little bit about the hair sheep, because that may be something that people are a little unfamiliar with.
So a hair sheep is basically like a goat. That's what I consider it as. It doesn't get furry like a normal sheep you would think of with wool. It just gets like a thicker coat that it sheds in the spring. And so they're more for hot climates, because they are allowed to breathe better through their skin, like unlike hair or wool sheep.
Mm-hmm. So then how do they do in the not so warm Wisconsin winters?
Mine do okay because mine are inside and I close up the barn and bed them heavily. I don't know how they do with people that keep them outside, honestly. I mean, I make sure my sheep are inside nice and warm out of the weather. So
yeah, so you've got all of these babies, they're all named now, they're out running around and growing. So, when you breed for color and you breed for, all these different genetics that you have going in your flock, what is your goal with that? What was, other than having the most interesting barn of animals I've ever seen, but what is your goal?
Well, number one was to have the most interesting, like you said, color array of sheep that you probably don't find much other places. My goal was to keep getting different colors and kind of create different breeds. Like you don't have wool sheep crossed with hair sheep a lot, or for example, the red Tunis crossed with black Dorper sheep. And so I get some really neat things. And one of the goals is to grow the lamb from when it hits the ground to about 70 pounds by June so I can take them to market. And with my breed selection now, I have pretty good luck in that.
Awesome. So when you are, breeding for diversity, how challenging has it been for you to, make sure that you get really strong genetics? Has that been challenging, or is that pretty easy because you're moving sheep through pretty quickly and you've got a lot of different rams to choose from? Like, how has that been in keeping all of that straight?
It's been 50-50. For the most part, I don't have trouble finding what I'm looking for. It just takes me a while to find it and then go get it. But once it's here, I'm pretty good at moving enough of my ewes through every year to keep the same rams multiple years in a row. So it's not like I got to worry about inbreeding or ram breeding his offspring, because with the pen separation out there and all the ewes and the rams, I can always switch and make sure that if this ram bred X amount of ewes, his offspring can be bred by another ram further down in the barn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been 50-50.
Awesome. So where do you see your market at? I know we talked a lot about that. People know you have all these colors and, all these different types of animals on your property. Do you find that most of them are going to other, sort of hobby farms or other herds that are sort of like yours, or are they going to market for meat, or are you finding that there is a market for the wool? Where are you finding your market?
There's no market for the wool. The wool is worth nothing. This year I sheared 44 head, paid $300 to get them sheared. He gave me a check for $30. That's all the wool was worth, and there was 280 some pounds of it. So there's no market there. The market for the lambs, the first couple of years, I sold them all through an equity sale barn, and I'm assuming most of them go for feedlots to be raised up to become lamb meat, because they're only 70 pounds, and I think they like them 120, 130 pounds for that. And then the last couple of years, probably last 4 years now, I start selling them off on Craigslist. And I've built quite the client base, I guess you could say, of people who come back year after year to buy my sheep. So last year I sold a third of the babies off before they even went to market to other people who are starting their flocks or adding into their flocks that have been here before.
Nice. So what has been the biggest challenge that you've had as you've started this operation? Because I would almost say at this size, you can't really say that you're just a hobby farmer at this point, and you're not just raising sheep to cut the grass. So what's been the biggest challenge in your journey?
The biggest challenge in the last couple of years have been food, finding enough food to feed the entire flock for the winter. Because I don't get to harvest the grass that we have here on the farm because that needs to go for the cows. So I got to go to other neighbor areas and find and get baled and made so I can get it here. And the second challenge would be is not having quite enough space to house what I do. I only have 6 acres of pasture here. We maybe have another 2 between the 2 dairies that we use. And it gets a little hairy if we don't get enough rain and keep the grass up growing. I'll get some, sheep are very prone to worms. So I got to keep up on that every month, or otherwise we'll get worms going through and then we'll lose a couple. So those would be the 2 biggest challenges, is finding food for the winter and making sure I always have enough green grass for everybody to eat all summer long.
Nice. So how do the alpacas fit into this little family?
The alpacas are my sisters, and that's something she's always wanted. They're pretty much pets. Their fiber is worth a little bit, but you need a lot of it to make anything out of. And so they just kind of hang out here and they're hers. They're nothing but a pet. Nice.
Do they commingle in with the sheep at pasture, or are they kept totally separate?
We did for a while, but alpacas are kind of skittish, so they'd run around a lot, and then the whole flock would get running. So now we just keep them separate. We just rotate pastures with them.
Oh. So then tell me a little bit about the goats. What is the plan for the goats?
The goats were what we first started out with. Before I got sheep, we had goats in 2009 already. And that was kind of me and my brother and mom's deal. And we did grow a little bit. And then last year, our oldest does died. And so we kind of just decided maybe we were going to skip that for a while and focus on the sheep flock. But yeah, we bred Nigerian dwarf goats for 8 years maybe. And they're only like 50 pounds when they're fully grown. And that's a good market too. People love to buy goats. I can get rid of goats all day long.
So what has been the most fun or the most rewarding aspect of the operation that you're running today?
The most coolest thing I see when I look at my operation is that when we started, it was an open floor plan in my barns. It was built for horses. So there's a riding arena and a bunch of horse stalls. And we personally have done all the work to change it to make it what it is today. So I feel like that's really rewarding to me, that I got to design, build, and firsthand do it to make it what I wanted. And the second thing is the lambing. I can't wait every year till lambing so I can see all the colors that happen through the breeding season.
Yeah, talk just a little bit about the pen system that you use when you pull the lambs into the lean-to part, because I thought that was really cool and very innovative in terms of what you had built to house the babies for the first 2 or 3 days.
Also, the pens that house the twins or the singles, I have dog kennels that are 5 by 5 with little swinging doors on the front, so we can walk in. It's very accessible. And the pens that house the triplets are company Premier One Supplies makes them out of Iowa, and there are 8 by 6 foot pens, so they're a little bigger for more babies. But yeah, I kind of designed and built the barn. It's all snapped together with rods and eye bolts, and it's quick, easy setup and quick and easy takedown for cleaning and disinfecting. And it's all like wire mesh, so they can see each other, because sheep need a buddy. So you can't like house a sheep in a closed area; they freak out. So it's all very easy, so they can see each other, and airflow quality is good in there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How, when you were putting that all together, and you were thinking about how you wanted it to work, what prevented you from just going down to the farm store and buying what everybody else is buying? Like, what was the thing that made you think we can do this better?
Well, I've only been to 2 other people's sheep farms and seen what they have. And I'm a very creative person, so I like to design and build my own stuff. And working with cows for so many years, I've kind of learned how animals like to move. So I applied what I've learned from the cows to the sheep, and that's how I came up with how I did my barn with the bunk feeding out in the big groups. So it's easy for us to dump grain and hay in the morning. And then I have a walk space behind that, 5 feet, so we can pen sheep up when we bring in big hay bales for them to eat out of, or we can pen them in the back in their straw pack and keep them away for the bunk while we clean or disinfect stuff.
That's really awesome, because I think that that's one thing that I hear pretty consistently amongst livestock producers is that the fencing systems that you use and the way that you can house them makes a huge difference, not only in their health, but also just in how they thrive. So are they happy? Do they do well? Are they eating and moving the way that they should? And trying to put as little stress on them as possible. So have you found that with sheep, that's equally important as just keeping them as low stress as possible and making sure that they've got everything that they need to be happy sheep?
Yeah, definitely. When we first started, it took me probably 5 years to build the barn that you've seen when you were here. And so we would drag in fences, and it'd be a rodeo to round up the sheep and put them in a corner so we could bring in new food. And so each year we added something to help not only our lives be less stressful chasing sheep around a giant area, but for them to just kind of do and learn the routine on their own. So now we can walk in, feed grain in the bunk. They all run up to eat. We close the gates behind them. We can bring in new food with the skid steer and not have to worry about running in circles and hauling all this other extra equipment in. And the sheep have done better. Stress on a sheep is difficult, and they say a sick sheep is a dead sheep. And I've come to find out that that's quite true. It's very hard to make a sheep recover after she's been sick.
Have you found that some of the breed types that you are raising are a lot more hardy than others, or are they all equally prone to stress?
No, they're all equal. I haven't found any special one of my breeds that has done better than the other as far as heat or cold or when they get a disease or something. They all kind of seem to be the same deal.
So what has been your favorite breed type? What is the breed type that makes you most excited to see the babies that they produce every year?
Up until last year was the Tunis, so the red sheep. Last year I had the best looking Dorper Tunis crosses. So they came out with red heads and white bodies instead of the normal Dorpers are black heads and white bodies. And this year, I would say the Dorper Katahdin crosses were the coolest. So my 2 Katahdin sheep are white and red mixed. And with the Dorper breeding them, I had all these spotted Holstein cow looking sheep. So I think that was the coolest.
I saw those little lambs. I agree with you. Those were very cute. So what is on the horizon for you? What are your hopes for this operation?
Well, I hope I can keep it alive for my kids someday. But over the next, especially this year and next year, we're going to settle down a little bit. We're going to take the flock down to about 30 adult ewes and 4 adult rams and kind of give us a little break because it's a lot of work caring for sheep. They're not self-sufficient, I should say. They are to a certain extent, but they require a lot of shots and wormer all summer long. So we're going to downsize a little bit so it's a little easier on everybody and focus on some other stuff in the upcoming of our new lives with getting married and kids and everything. But hopefully we'll keep the sheep going on and on for another generation or so.
Yeah, your property is right on the highway, and I can only imagine how excited the neighborhood gets when you turn the ewes and babies out for the first time in the spring.
Yeah, I get questions from the neighbors. When are you going to turn the sheep out? When are you going to turn the sheep out? I'm like, soon. And so, yeah, we get a lot of people, especially in this month, because this is the first time they'll be out. that stop on the road and watch for half hour the rennet lambs run around the pasture and frolic.
So in addition to keeping the sheep going, are there any other breed types that you are hoping to bring in? Even though you're downsizing, are there some other breed types that you'd like to get included into your herd?
I don't think so. For the hair sheep, we're pretty much got the ones that I can find in Wisconsin covered. But we're probably going to try and get rid of the wool sheep as we go here, since the wool's worth nothing and it's just an extra cost in shearing them. But as I do that, I'm going to try to incorporate the wool sheep's colors into the hair sheep before I would get rid of that side of it.
Nice. Yeah, it's surprising to me to hear that there is no market for wool, given how much wool you find in clothing now.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that. The guy who shears my sheep buys the wool that day and takes it with him, and he stocks semi-trailers full and sells it to market. But he claims that nobody uses wool to make clothing and stuff anymore, so that's why it's worth nothing.
I guess there are a lot of synthetics. I guess I just like natural fibers, so I always look for cotton and wool clothing. So I guess I maybe am not like everybody else, I guess.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you why the wool's worth nothing. That's all he gives me for when I ask him, and I don't go too much in detail because I got to do it and I got to get rid of it. So yeah, here's what it is and here's what I'm getting, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So your fiance, and congratulations, by the way, on getting married this year. That's so excited. So is she excited about your sheep operation? Does she come out and help sometimes when she can?
Yep. She'll be out there. So she grew up on a dairy farm in Johnson's Creek, which is about 30 minutes from where I live. And so I think with the downsizing of the flock, I think I'm going to get some brown Swiss cattle that show up here all of a sudden.
Nice.
And then she'll be out in the barn helping more.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. So, not to detract from what you're doing there, but just down the road in opposite directions, you have also two very large dairies. So just, I think the story of your dairy farm is also just really cool. It's a multi-generational family operation. Just talk a little bit about what you've going on there, because you've also got breed diversity in your dairy herd as well.
Okay, so I'm in the sheep farm's in the middle of the two dairies. Up the road, we have a 1,400 cow dairy that is mostly becoming jerseys for reasons of the milk hauling cost is getting too high. So we'll have less milk, but they're paying more for protein and butter fat. And that's what a jersey is good for, is getting your protein and butter fat up. So we're doing that. And then down the road from me is another dairy that we have, and that milks 3,100 cows, and that's kind of the dairy I run, and that's all Holstein. And we're doing like 91 to 95 pounds a day per cow down there, which is 5 to 6 tanker loads a day, and a tanker holds 53,000 pounds.
That's a lot.
I'm a third generation here. So my grandpa and his brother started the farm, and when they started, they had pigs. So we started out with pigs, then we moved to dairy, and now I have sheep on the side. So we've kind of had all the animals in the farming area.
Yeah, that is amazing. So, I know that that you introduced yourself as I haven't really left the block. So tell me about, what really excites you about being not only part of a very robust agricultural operation, but also just all the diversity and, just talk a little bit about what excites you to show up every day and continue to carry on the legacy of your family.
So what gets me out of bed and going to work every day is I'm like, I guess you call me maintenance, but I get to use my creativity every day to come up with new building ideas and ways to remodel old buildings to fit what we need going on and to fix things. So that's what excites me, is when I get home at the end of the day, I look at what I did and be like, I built that or I created that, and that's going to help us strive through the future. That's what I like about this job and what we do here.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk, of course, in agriculture now about the importance of diversity. And, you have done what I think a lot of people would love to do, which is, to have a very robust, main operation, but then have another business running alongside of that, which you and Austin have managed to do, is to create, a business by a business. What would be your recommendations or your advice for listeners who are out there that are saying, man, I would love to do something like that, but I just don't know where we would even start, how we would even do it? What would be your advice to them?
Well, I'd say you got to get, like money and figure out your cost and whatnot. But I would say to them, if you can afford to chase your dream, then you should, because that's what I did. I didn't really know a lot about sheep or how big I was going to get. One year I bought some, and the next year we were breeding, and I learned as we went on, and then we built this place. So I'd say just go for it, and hopefully it works out.
So, how would you describe the sheep operation? Is it in your mind? Is it just a passion project and it doesn't really matter if it makes money because it's just fun? Or do you really look at that business and say it's profitable and we run it really well and we're doing all the right things? How do you view that business?
The sheep that I have, they're not profitable. I'll tell you that. Every year I have to put in $5,000 to $6,000 of my own money to make the yearly expenses all paid for. But to me, that really doesn't matter. As long as it's not outrageous, I enjoy the sheep. I enjoy having something else to do than farming with the dairy cows. And it's kind of like a little stress relief, especially this time of year, to come back if it's a bad day or whatever. I go in the barn and all the little lambs are running around and work with them a little bit. And it just seems to me that's all I care about, is that I get a little, and it's mine. I get to do what I want with it, and I get to make it go in the direction I want it to go in. And I don't have anybody else always telling me what to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important distinction when you're looking to do something new. Is it purely for profit, or is it a little bit of passion that's thrown in? And it sounds like your operation, the sheep in particular, is really about passion. So as you get more experience with what you're doing, do you expect that it will flip over into profitability, or is that just simply not a concern of yours?
It's not really a concern that they'll be profitable ever. It might happen depending on how I get things to roll. But as long as I keep liking or loving what I do with them, then I don't really care. As long as it's not costing me thousands and thousands of dollars every year, a couple thousand here and there to help make what I like doing ain't a big deal.
How much of being able to do this with your mom, your brother, your dad, your sister, how much of that is part of the joy that you get from it, being able to do that with family?
A lot. It brings us together, especially this time of year. We spend a lot of time here all together doing different things with the sheep, and we get to chat and talk where maybe we wouldn't see each other other times of the year as much. So I think that, especially as I look at it now, how my family's done it, I'm hoping that my future wife and kids will do the same as we continue on this business. So is there any other animals that you're thinking about bringing into I can't remember what you call your farm. It's the Statz's Woolly Acres. Yeah, Statz's Woolly Acres. So are there other woolly creatures that you're thinking about adding to the mix? I don't think they're woolly. We talked about getting a few potbelly pigs one time and some mini donkeys. So we haven't pulled the plug on that yet, but there are conversations going on about them.
Nice, nice. So donkeys, I think donkeys are, if I remember right, they're very good to run with sheep because they are good early warning signals for predators. Is that correct?
Yeah, donkeys and llamas are good for that. So we had talked about getting llamas one time too to run with the flocks when they go out to pasture. But where I'm set up, we really don't have a problem with predators. And every night they get locked in the barn, and I have 4-foot tall fences, which is supposed to keep coyotes and stuff out of their pen. So, but yeah, if we got some donkeys, that would be some good protectors at night for them.
Nice, nice. So, Zach, just one question to wrap up our chat today. You talked a little bit about getting into a new business, and it sounds like you just did it because you wanted to, and you've learned along the way, which I think is great. It's going to life school is a great way to learn something new. But if you could go back and do it all over again, would you do it any differently than what you've done it?
I could do it all over again. I wish I had this place sooner is about it, but I like to learn as I go, because it's easier for me if I get to do it firsthand or go through it firsthand, that I'll hopefully learn the challenges and everything. I mean, I could have learned a lot of this stuff that we did and went through here with worming, and we've had a couple other things go through here by talking to other sheep farmers, but I think that I got more experience and better at diagnosing problems before they arise because I went through it myself and just had to deal with it.
Yeah. So if anybody who is listening is interested in connecting with you, what's the best way to do that?
Usually through email, or you can text me too. I get a lot of text messages this time of year for buying sheep, so I can give you some contact information if you would like.
Yeah, excellent. Why don't we, since it's email, we'll just get that put into the show notes for all of our listeners. So if you're listening to this and you're interested in connecting with Zach, all you need to do is just click on the icon. It'll go into the show notes, and all of Zach's contact information will be there, so that if you're interested in learning more about Zach, about the sheep, about buying sheep, we'll make sure that you can connect to him. And Zach, I just thank you so much for being here today, and I wish you just all the best this season. I don't know how you're going to decide which one of these sheep is going to be the downsized ones this year. I don't envy you that at all, but I just wish you all the very best as you continue to diversify and get all those awesome colors built into your flock.
Thank you. This was fun. This was fun and something new. I haven't done one of these before, so this was new to me too. And,
well, you're a rock star. I think it's going to be the first of many.
And yeah, I don't know how I'm going to pick which sheep get to stay and which sheep get to go this year. I got a lot of neat, interesting colors out there, so I got quite the hard picking season ahead of me. Yeah,
for sure. I don't know how you're going to do it. I just do not envy you that at all. But whoever ends up staying, we're going to look forward to watching them continue to grow and thrive. And again, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
This is Rena Striegel, and you have been listening to AgInspo, the podcast. Please visit my website at tomorrowiscoming.com and find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you haven't yet, please go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join me next week for another inspirational episode where you will hear from another amazing entrepreneur who has had the courage to break through and bring an idea to life.